What's up, legends? Welcome back to the Fitness and Business Podcast. Today, I'm joined by a friend of mine, Matt Groom. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thanks. Yourself?
Very good, man. Very good. Appreciate you jumping on the podcast today.
No
Should
problem.
be a good chat. For reference, for anyone listening, Matt and I, Matt still works for the Queensland Police Service, where I used to work. Different offices, however, alongside each other for a little bit there, and it's I really think it'll be a great conversation. Now, obviously, fitness and business is about being fit, healthy, strong in business. However, there's a very strong link between who you are, how you think, and then how you operate as a person. And that's what I want to dig into because from my observations of getting to know Matt over a couple of years, when you look at the description, and he's probably got enough humility to probably not say this, so I will for him. When you talk about people being a high performer, that's what I would see in you, mate. Like, so from running a full-time job, being a family man, being a dad, a husband, and running a business and helping people outside of all that, that's collectively a big parcel of stuff to do. And so I just want to break some of those things down and understand the mindset and the driving factors behind that, because I think it transitions over into life and business really well. So
Let's do it.
Should be really good. Let's do it. See,
Yep.
Straight to the point, mate. Tell us about I guess, a bit of background, like growing up, bit of sport, and into how you ended up in law enforcement.
Growing up, okay. Grew up sort of in the country, back around through Ipswich area. Went to school through there. Mate, sport was huge, a huge thing for me. Growing up, I was always outdoors, active, riding a bike. In the old days, shooting a gun, playing footy, catching up with mates. It's what you did back then, right? Like, you came home from school and jumped on your bike and collected your mates around the neighbourhood and you went off exploring. So that was always a good thing. I always got a lot of enjoyment out of sport and physical activity. I never remember being able to sit still for too long. Is a big part of my personality, I guess, and that's always been a thing. And I would get a lot of satisfaction out of sport, like personally, as in trying to achieve the next thing, trying different sports to see where my passion really was. So I played various sports growing up just to make sure whatever I committed to was the thing I enjoyed the most and could excel at to the highest I could. So through school, did all that. And then out of school, had the ambition to go to the police. Still, like, I get asked this a lot, to be honest, like, why did you go to the coppers? And I can't remember back and a particular thing that made me go, oh, I want to be a cop, that's it. But anyway, went through the process. I knew a few police. I knew through my family and some friends, it seemed like an okay job. It was a pretty secure job. I like the appeal of sort of, sounds a bit Keithy as far as the police, but I like the idea of going out and helping people and doing something to help when they couldn't. And then, so I looked at that avenue. It looked like some adventures involved in it. Obviously, policing's changed a lot in 25 years, but so I joined police. I knew a fella that was a few years older than me at school that joined the police, and he came back to Ipswich, and I knew he was applying and then applied for a specialist unit within the police, which then sort of sparked my interest. And like, oh, what's that about? That seems fun. And then, so mate, back those days, mate, you had to go do some tertiary study before you could apply, have some life experience. So I went off and did business studies, a tertiary study, to get through. My father, all my family were mostly military, so my father tried to push me away from that, from his experience, I guess.
Yeah.
So go do business stuff first, spend a few years in the real world and see what you feel like doing. But anyway, I went to the police. So went through a few different units over a few years, and then Through a process of trying to get through to the specialist unit that I sort of had the goal for, and some ups and downs through that, and then eventually got through into that unit. Spent majority of my career in that unit, and then since then, the last sort of 5 years, progressed from there into some other ranks and some other roles back in the broader policing community.
Yeah, that's awesome. And can we touch a little into that, because it's a big, strong part of the mindset that I want to touch into. If not, we can chop it out. But can I dig on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
So the unit Matt's referring to is CERT, Special Emergency Response Team, which is probably like you'd refer to it as the last point of call, right? Like when everything's gone bad, if that unit's turning up, things are pretty hairy. And so what I would love to dig into is it's physically and mentally challenging. And I'd love to just hear some of your experience of like what was challenging about it. I'm sure there's heaps of elements, but looking back, getting into and even being part of that for such a long time, there's no doubt was challenges with physically and mentally, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it is physically challenging. It requires a physical standard. I think anybody who's been through the full process and become a team member would vouch for the fact that its majority is mental. Like it's a mental sort of aptitude, that strength that you need to have. So it doesn't really matter how physically fit you are, you'll get tested beyond that, and that's when that mental side comes in, of being able to convince your body you can do something more, you can keep going, those kind of things. So, it's a long process. The selection course alone goes about over 6 months from start to finish, roughly, in different phases. And just the lead up into the course, like you need a couple of years in the service before you can even apply for the role. And that's probably going to spend those 2 years where you've already got a base of fitness before you join the police, I guess. You need to build on that. So it's a bit of commitment to it as far as time, the toll it takes on your body, your mind, your family, depending on what stage of life you're in. I had a few obstacles along the way. Like I started the process. I did the process from start 3 times, and obviously the third time I finished, I had 2 significant medical incidents in the first 2. Pretty significant. So both of those required emergency surgery. One was life-threatening, one was limb-threatening. So, you had to manage those, keep your positivity, keep your focus of what your goal was. And look, we all face hurdles in life. This is just another hurdle I had to get through. Really, I got to the point in recovery that, yes, I'm still able to go. My body still works. My mind still works. So over a few years, it took a bit longer than I hoped for. So it was a bit more draining than some of the other guys have success the first times. But look, I grew out of it. I learned a lot about myself through it. I'm still here, and I got there in the end. So, yeah, I mean, so those mental attributes, like I said, is probably the biggest part, and that's just a decision you make within yourself. Like, how important is this to me? What am I willing to do to achieve my goal? And at the time, that was pretty much my focus in my career.
Yeah, that's great, mate. That's such a key point that I'll just tap on a little bit. Is people set goals? I jump on Zooms or calls with people all the time, and they'll talk to me about their goals and what they want to do, and there's we can talk about things, and then there's the actual doing of it and the building of what are the habits and fundamentals that I need to create physically and mentally to actually be able to get that outcome. And that's where I think we often can let ourselves down, and why I like to have these conversations, because everyone can learn a little gold nugget. And what you said there is really important, in that it's goal focused. That's a hurdle, like whether it's fitness, whether it's career, whether it's life or family, those impacts it's not if, but when, because they'll always keep showing up. And it's like, if that's the outcome that I want, I've got to go around, because I can't go that way anymore. So yeah, it's really good.
You're always going to have obstacles. And I think, like I said, that's the same everywhere in life. Um, so yeah, when you reach those, it's how you manage it. People talk about resilience, which is great. I think resilience is highly required for a lot of things in life. But out of a resilient episode, I think the most important thing you get is some growth. Like, what did I learn? How can I be better? How can I avoid that from happening again?
Yeah,
Different way of looking at planning, structuring things. So, yeah,
totally.
resilience has always been a real big catchword. Everyone likes to throw that one out, but yeah, I like to talk about growth. Like, I want to be better, stronger, more knowledgeable after there's a letdown in your life, because we're going to have them. There's no avoiding them.
Yeah, 100%. For sure, man. And so along that journey, there's obviously different checkpoints of when, and the reason I'm touching on this is because it's a highly demanding position, physically and mentally, right?
Yeah,
And so alongside, and you are a business owner, and we'll get to that in a second, but along the journey of back to conversations with people, I often have these conversations and it's like, no, I'm busy. This is in the way. I can't do that because of this. And it's like, there's people that do manage it and there's people that don't. And I think the difference is systems and structure, in my opinion. Happy to be proven wrong, but I really do think when there's good systems and good structure, an organization as big as a QPS can run well. And you and I could both probably giggle at the fact that sometimes things don't run well because people don't follow systems and structure.
yeah,
But when they're not followed, everything goes pear shaped. And I really think that the taking that lesson and embedding that into everything we do, whether it's fitness, business, working for an organization, it's being someone that can not just follow those systems and structures, but improve on them. And that's what I want to pull out of your brain along the way, because it's like you just said it. You're not just going, oh, that's a lesson, that's an impact. Poor me. It's like, what's the lesson in here that I can make sure that next time that comes up, I've improved.
yeah.
Yeah,
Look,
and I
I
think
mean,
that's
as far as the QPS, the system structure, you got your policies, you got your standing orders, your operation procedures, all that kind of stuff, and that's obviously they're developed over time through experiences, and they're rejigged as like everything else you learn. But it's definitely try to keep everyone on the same path and minimise sort of diversions out of those things to stay in that right path. So, like, from my experience and how I run my life, I plan a lot. Like, I have a calendar. I'm like, when do I have to be somewhere? How long is that going to take? What resources is that going to take? Who do I need to connect with to help me through that?
for sure.
Heaps of planning, contingencies. All right, what if this happens? What if that happens? Some actions on as far as, right, well, if that contingency comes, with that event happens, then right, what are we going to do there just to try and keep it flowing? And you always need to be adaptable to what pops up, because it is hard to plan for everything, obviously, and some things are uncontrollable, but where you can control it, then that's on me. So I do like to plan a lot and just have things written down. And you make adjustments as you go if something pops in. But yeah, to me, planning, having that real clear direction for me is really helps with my workload and where I want to go with things.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. Thanks for sharing that, mate. Talk to us about your business, because Matt does some consulting with sporting teams, and I'm assuming some other bits and pieces. But I'm interested to know what the driver was for you to start that. As I mentioned before, you're a family man with a full-time career, and you start a business.
Yeah.
There's got to
So
be some deep layered like drive behind that.
yeah, once again, I don't sit down well. I don't sit still well. So I like to be active, even if I'm physically sitting down, my mind's always ticking about something. If laying
Yeah.
in bed, my mind's ticking. Whether that's good or bad, that's just something I have to manage. But the business side of it, look, that sort of fell into my lap a little bit by just coincidence. Some mates that I was involved with the sports club knew my background and thought, look, we want to look at doing some stuff with the sports team. We think that can transfer into the club and the culture and things we can do through sport. So I sort of sat there and had a chat and think about it. I'm like, well, you know, you're probably not wrong. So, look, we had a bit of a plan. I had a discussion with the initial group of, well, what do you want to achieve out of this? And then I was pretty honest about, right, I can help you with that, I can't help you with that, due to experience, resources, whatever it was. And look, we came up with a few things, got some team building type of stuff into play with it. And it was pretty basic at the start, to be honest. Like, it was just stuff that I'd learnt from the police tactical group training and the operations we do that could transfer into sport. And I guess having my sporting background made it easier to relate the two to each other, link them together and go, well, here's an activity outside of what you're used to, but this is how you link it to what your relevant sport.
For sure.
And it's kind of just grew from there. Like, every time I did it, it got pretty good feedback. And I guess because it was something that a lot of people in general society don't have exposure to, that kind of experience and knowledge and background. So I think, one, they enjoy that. So it became a bit of a demand, and not many people obviously have done that kind of role and are out there doing that kind of stuff, especially at that time, because this is quite a few years ago. So it just kind of grew from there. And then, mate, I didn't advertise, I didn't promote anything. It was literally just word of mouth from a few teams here and there. And it grew to working with pretty big organisations like Rugby Australia, helping the men's sevens team, doing like a gateway course into trying to lead up to Olympics, into, you know, GPS, schoolboy rugby, into women's sport, basketball, you know, a couple of different businesses with their leadership, culture, teamwork, communication, all the key things that are really important with my background. A lot of that mindset stuff. And I find it worked with the sports stuff because I think in the sport, especially that high level, you get to a certain point where everything's kind of similar. Same speed, same size, same skill sets, all that kind of stuff. Where the real difference come down to, I started observing, was that mindset space. Like, in those pressure moments, are you composed? Do you communicate well with your team? Do they respond well? How willing, you know, in those physical moments, are you willing to get up and go again? How much have you really pushed yourself outside your comfort zone and where you thought your limit was? That's where I found in my business, most people have never really taken themselves to that point. Like, you go, oh, no, that's the best I could do. I'm like, guarantee you that's not the best you can do. Guarantee you can do a bit more, whether it's living through the experience, studying something, talking to someone who's done it a different way. There's always, I just found in life, there's always more we can achieve. Like, human species to me is pretty impressive. And then the brain is just controls everything. Like, so if you can train the brain, how that processes your body, the things you're able to do is sort of limitless to a degree.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what do you think, man? You've spoken to lots of people about mindset, about physical conditioning. You've been through the ringer yourself on different journeys. What do you think is a real, because I think this carries over, when you talk about mindset, it's very broad words, very broad statement. Like, oh, we've got to get a stronger mindset, right? That's so broad. But like, and this could be a broad answer, but what's something that you see come up a lot in people that when you go, I know there's a weak mindset there. I know there's something we need to develop in that person. Where, like, what do you think shows up? Because, and I'd love to hear your answer, because I think it's just a lack of exposure to.
I definitely agree with that. It's like, so I think the biggest key identifier of that is you recognize their self-doubt. Like, they question themselves. They pause. They stop. You know, like, they're like, oh, I'm not ready for that. Oh, what's that? Oh, no, I can't do that. Or have you tried it?
Yeah.
Did you try it with the right people around you? Did you try it in the right circumstances, in the right time of your life? You know, like, all right, it didn't work now, but in 6 months, 12 months' time, if I expose myself to those things that make me uncomfortable or where I thought my limit was, and I get people in that area who have been through it and can go, hey, look, I was the same 12 months ago, 5 years ago, but this is what I learned, and share those experiences. That's a big thing. But when I do my stuff, it's a lot of, like you're saying, it just has it's a lack of exposure, and that's where you get in your comfort zone. So where I try to, whatever we're trying to achieve out of a group or a session, I expose them to things. I go, right, well, where's your limits been before? Let's go to there. All right, you're uncomfortable, but you can get through this. You've done it before. Let's go somewhere else. And then that's when they get a bit uncomfortable. You see the body language change. You see the communication change. All the, human stresses come into play, where things shut down and you do all the sort of caveman sort of physical and mental processing. So
making more emotional-based decisions instead of logic-based decisions.
Yeah. And it's just about composure. Take a step back. Take a breath.
Yes.
All right, let's open my vision up. Let's take in as much information as possible. What are the threats to me here if you're feeling that way? So, a big thing to me is just being able to put yourself in a place where you do get exposed to that kind of stuff. And it definitely helps if you're with someone who can help you through that, who has either got the experience or isn't so attached to that event that they can see it a different way.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's really cool. And I guess after that, once the exposures happened in those challenging environments and people are learning about themselves, because I have these moments in different ways, right? Like I have coaching clients that I haven't actually met in person. We know each other through Zoom or phone calls. And I coach them remotely and I train people, as you know, face to face. And so those moments sometimes for me come up with clients in a bench press. They don't think they can do another rep. And that's quite a small example, but they literally don't think they can do it. But I know that we've done all this prep work to get them to this weight. And I know that like numbers wise, they can do it. They just have to have a crack. They might see a conditioning session I've designed and go, there's no way I can get through that. And I go, I know, but we're going to do 75% of it and it's going to hurt. And then we're going to work towards the 100% and then we're going to go beyond. And so that comes up like that for me. But the thing I want to understand about your experiences is once I personally take people past those little moments and they've had that exposure and they learn from that and they go, I'm so glad I did that. Thanks for the push. As a result, I now want to do this, like this, the goal has changed and I know that I can do this because I've learned those lessons.
Yeah.
Some of those things that have happened for you, whether it's personally, with colleagues, with clients, like those experiences where people have had like life pivoting things as a result of whether it be physical or mental conditioning. Can you share some of those?
Yeah, look, like when people have hit those where they think the limits are, it's an individual thing. I think you've got to dig in a little bit deeper with individuals because everyone's got a different background, different goals, different experiences. So I ask a lot of questions. I'm like, okay, so where are you at? Why do you feel like that? How does that make you feel? Is there something you think you can do? And I try to get them to really understand themselves. A lot of people don't even understand themselves, to be honest, because they haven't sort of been through enough sometimes or been exposed to enough things to learn about themselves or taking the time to find themselves out. So I think it helps for them to understand themselves first, and then obviously that helps me understand them. And then I'll pick up on little cues about what's going to motivate them, how to make them feel safe. I show some vulnerability at the same time of, hey, look, I've been through that. I was like that, but this is what I did. Why don't you try that? Or this is, that's similar to a mate of mine or the experience there. Let's try that. And it might take 6 12 attempts at different strategies, but there's always a way around it, always. So I think it's just being confident enough to dig down inside yourself as a person, but when you're coaching, also be able to get them to trust you enough to let you in, and then you can understand each other, and then you can build from there. And it's kind of, I find like that initial bit is, it's like trying to push a car. It's in neutral so that you can push it, but they're touching the brake. And at the start, they're really on the brakes. They're like, well, if this rolls forward, what's going to happen? You're like, mate, just let's let it roll forward. Let's see what happens. I'm with you. Like, and then over time, that moves a little bit, and then they move a little bit. And they're like, oh, okay, all right, that was okay. Or take the brake off a little bit more. Oh, look, we're really speeding up. And then all of a sudden, it just compounds. The foot's off the brake. You're pushing downhill. Things are flying. You know, and that might take, 1 session, 10 sessions, whatever it is. But it's just once you get that trust and that exposure, I think you can really get the momentum going.
Yeah, 100%. That's great, man. Mate, let's talk about the way you look after yourself. With training, with recovery, with nutrition, 3 big categories, but just run us through the basics. Because last time we chatted, I remember talking about it because I remember thinking there's a lot of similarity in that, like, simple is best, eating clean, eating lean, simple foods, which is primarily what I'm always trying to get people to do, like eat things from trees, the ground, and that were animals, and you'd probably be pretty sweet. And it's pretty hard to overeat. So share a bit about that, mate, how you do that.
Oh, look, I mean, I guess diet is a big basis of who we are. I guess growing up on properties and stuff, you kind of ate maybe a little bit cleaner because the shops weren't just down the road. You didn't have convenience stores, like you butchered your own cattle and pigs, and so it doesn't get much fresher. You grew your own veggies, it was pretty basic.
And you still do a little bit about that now, right? You'll go and grab an animal and go shoot it, kill it, butcher it.
Yeah, I'll take my boy out now. I'm teaching him that.
Cool.
We go out. We'll go get some deer, butcher the venison. We do obviously make the rubs and do all the other stuff too. But as far as nutrition, like I get that. I go fishing. I'd much rather have a freezer full of food I've collected myself. I know where it's come from. I've inspected it. There's something about that for me that makes me enjoy that food a lot more. I've never really been into the processy stuff. I think just because I didn't grow up with it, I'm not appealed to it. Like I'll have a little snack every now and then or something if I have to, but my body, I think just because over time I never had it, my body doesn't really respond well to it anyway. So if I've eaten food, I really listen to my body, so how it reacts. I think that's a really important thing to do. How does that make you feel? Does it give you energy? Does it make your gut sore? Does it block you up? Do you get a high for 10 minutes and then crash for 2 hours after? So I take that, and that goes back to that background of in the specialist unit, if we were deployed and your body wasn't ready, sometimes you didn't know when you're going to get another feed. So if you're not prepared that way and you've been eating crap, you're going to crash. And then you're a risk of yourself, you're a risk of the team, you're a risk to society. So it's just been a lifestyle stuff for me for the diet stuff. And it's just, I grew up with it, I enjoy it, and I've just maintained it. Like, don't get me wrong, I like a bit of ice cream, I like a little bite of chocolate, but I'm very careful how I manage that. So, I really regulate how much I have it. If I'm going to be doing heaps of activity, I'm like, I can have a bit of ice cream or chocolate, and or sometimes you just want to switch off.
For sure.
Never really been a massive drinker, so that's not a thing for me because that's a bit of a negative effect on your body and your mind in my experience. And then the physical exercise. Look, I've never locked in one type of training. I've always sort of been more functional about it. So that good cardio base, some muscle endurance stuff. Once again, over time, I know how my body reacts to certain type of training. Sometimes it's about trying to achieve a goal. Look, I want to run an ultra trail run through the mountains, so I have to condition myself particularly for that. Other times it's like, hey, I'm carrying an injury. You know, I'm getting a bit older now. My body's not how it used to be, so I've got to back it off. Because if I push myself, injure myself, I'm then out for, you know, several months, and that then mentally affects me. So the exercise for me, as much as it's obviously just a physical thing, it's hugely a mental thing for me. It's my time. Like we've spoken about it, mate. I go out for a run, and that's just my time to zone out. Like I completely zone out, or depends. There's another day where I've got to process something, and this is my time to do it, where I don't have distractions because no one's talking to me. I don't have anything else going on. I'm running, and I'm just thinking about that, where I'm not getting disturbed. And then I generally come back a little bit clear-headed from it. So it's got a two-way effect there. Like physically, it makes me feel better, and then I can mentally process a few things as well.
Totally. Yeah. And I like the way you just described that, because people can often not start, and this is just my own experience of listening to people for so long about this, is that they've failed to get started, or maybe they used to exercise and train and now they don't, because they're like, oh, waiting for the perfect plan, the perfect time, I need to be ready, I need to be injury free, I need to get the diet sorted as well. Like everything needs to be ducks in a row. And I really think they're just like little blockers and a lack of just getting the ball started. It's like you said, it's like the person from the analogy in the car with their foot fully on the brake. They're just like, nah, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to stay here because it's kind of comfy. And even though I might be experiencing these challenges, that's like an unknown. It's like, just do one little thing and do one more little thing. Yeah.
Yeah. When I talk to people do ask, look, I'm not a PT by any means, but from time to time you get asked that kind of stuff just because I do a lot of training and stuff. But my biggest thing is, well, what's your issue? Sometimes it's, well, I go home and I have 3 Big Macs. I'm like, well, how's that helping you, mate? One little thing you can change at a time. Well, or, why don't you reduce your portion? Or as far as exercise, look, it's not about a massive big workout. It's about a routine.
For sure.
At this time of day, on this day of the week, no matter what, you're just going to go for a walk. You're going to move for an hour. Just move for an hour, mate. Or you're sitting on the couch, mate. All you got to do is fall on the floor, do 20 push-ups every ad break. It's something, right? Like, and that just starts something. And the more, it's like what we talked about before, you get those little starts, and then you get those positive endorphins, that feedback mentally, physically. And you're like, oh, okay. And sometimes if you go too hard too early, mate, that's where people crash, right? Like these crash diets and stuff. Yeah. Or training, they go, oh, I'm going to go out and I'm going to be the strongest man in Australia. Well, mate, 2 weeks later you ripped your shoulder out of a socket because you weren't prepared for it. You went too hard too early, or you starved yourself. So you need to be able to mentally enjoy it, emotionally enjoy what you're doing, and sometimes that's just really small steps, but it's got to be a step. So
100%.
If you're stationary, you're in your comfort zone, you're never going to progress. It's hard fact.
Yeah, big time. I can't remember where I heard this analogy. I really love analogies because they help, because our brains are so visual. It really helps paint a picture. But it was described from a business development perspective, but you could draw it into fitness of like a ship. You can't steer it if it's not moving forwards.
Yeah.
So you can't guide yourself, and you can't get better if you don't literally start and go, oh, I turned right. Well, that exercise doesn't work for me, so I'm going to go left a bit. But if you're not actually trying anything, you're just doing nothing. So
true. Yeah.
I really like that.
No, and like I said, if you're really struggling, you're in a dark place, you're really stuck. It's just really small steps, right? Like, don't look at the big picture. And I do it from my sports stuff, the rugby stuff, right? Is like the end goal is really important. That's what you're doing it for, right? Like you want to win a game, you want to win a championship. Yep. I never worry about that. It's what's our first step, and then what do we do, and then what do we do? Just be in that moment, like, because if you get too far ahead of yourself, you get really overwhelmed and daunted by it. Yeah. And there was even a thing we noticed on our selection courses where the guys, and these are obviously motivated guys to even apply in the first place, is where they're busy, they're doing activities, they're working hard, they're fine. And then you get that downtime right, go sort your kit out, unpack your kit, repack it, do whatever you got to do, have a rest, fix your strapping, whatever you got to do. Majority of blokes who pull out of the course, pull themselves off the course, that's the time they do it, where they're in that space of overthinking things, thinking about, man, I've got so many weeks or days or activities to get through. Don't worry about that, mate. It's coming. There's nothing you can do about that. What you can do is what you got to do next. Let's just get that bit done. And then you get that bit done, and then you get that bit done. And you do all those little things, the end result comes. Like it'll always come.
That's really interesting, isn't it? And it's like you draw that into off a selection course and back into life. That's such a good point. You mentioned before, you like moving, you like momentum. It's hard to sit still. It's very hard to. I think it's good to sit still and self-assess and have those times where you're thinking about how am I tracking towards my goals, towards the vision for my life, for my business, for my career. But it's also, if you can maintain momentum and just keep trying things, like the more you fail at with the exposures thing, the more you're going to understand about yourself and what's good, what's bad for you. And the more you can sort of get rid of the noise and put the blinkers on and go, no, this is the stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah, that goes back to that growth thing, right? That's where you're learning. Like growth is learning about yourself, learning about your environment, and then planning, reassessing those constant assessments as things pop up. Right, yeah, cool, that was where I wanted to go, but this has changed. So what do I need to do now? And come up with a plan. And like I said, like I'm saying, sitting down, like I don't like sitting still. Like I'll sit down, but I'll be thinking. I'm always thinking. Like, and write a little note, put something in my phone, research something. I'm like, oh, I wonder what that's about. And I'll just have a little Google and research something. And so yeah, I'm pretty non-stop
totally
for that stuff.
For sure, man. Mate, with your business stuff, do you have a big growth plan or a vision for that? Or is it more of a responding to the needs of your circle at the moment?
Look, it got a bit busy at one stage, to be honest, and just because of my commitments with family and my full-time career, I had to pull back a little bit on that. And people are like, mate, why don't you just step into this field? You got the experience. You're good at what you do. You've got all this, testimonials, whatever it is. You really take off. I've always been kind of hesitant with that because it's something I really enjoy and I don't want to take the enjoyment out of it just yet, where I'm in a career I've really worked hard for, and I want to keep my side business going because there will be a point where obviously I wind down from my full-time career, and that's probably when I'll do it. I'll elevate it a bit then. But yeah, so it is like what I do is time consuming with a lot of the sports clubs, and currently I'm with one of the GPS schools doing their rugby program. So it is time consuming. There's a lot of work to it, but it just gives me so much satisfaction, mate. Like it does. Like I get so much out of dealing with the guys in the group and watching them grow throughout a season, watching their successes, being there for their failures. At the moment, mate, I've got a young boy going through his own lifestyle, and I just want to make sure I'm there for him. Like, I'm not in a position where I need to really push that business. I'm financially comfortable. So at the moment, it's enough just to give me something else to do and have a passion for things. That's probably the main reason I do it, to be honest, is the passion of it.
That's really cool.
But it's definitely something down the track that I would look at potentially enhancing, but I just got to build that up over time when I'm ready for it. I just know, 100%. I know I'm not ready for it. So not to say I don't want to do it, I'm not capable of doing it. I'm just not in the space in life where it's the priority for me.
Yeah, totally. Mate, that's such a good point about not losing the enjoyment and doing something that you love, which is how I would like briefly describe why I'm doing what I'm doing now and I'm not still with the Queensland Police, because I got to the stage where I didn't love going to work every day. And I was like, what else can I do? Surely there's other things that I can do, and started my business and now work for myself, which I currently love. That may change in the future, but I'm really passionate about it now. But back to like I chat with people who, a lot of business owners, which is, no doubt. And there are people that are 100% passionate about their business. They're like, this is exactly what I want to do. And then there's people who stepped into something, and whether they were ready or not, doesn't matter, but they've grown to the point where they actually dislike it. It's making heaps of bank, but they're just like, they literally complain about it. Like they have to get up every day and do that. And so that's such a good point that you said. It's like losing that passion is terrible, because you can see it all over their face, in their body language, how they speak, how they act, how they eat, how they drink. It all tells a story that they're just
I think there's a huge risk and a huge cost to that. I think, like, if you are going into that place in your life, things start spiraling, right? So as much as your business might be successful now, but if that's your true feelings and the way you operate, I don't think you're going to be successful for that much longer, to be honest. You're probably looking at a point where you need to sell the business and come up with something else. You've got find that passion again, or find that passion within that role again. What made you do it in the start? What made you start that up? Do you still have it? Maybe you moved on. Maybe you've grown or changed as a person. That's fine. That happens.
Yeah.
But don't be afraid to take that next step, though. Like, because not only will your business fail, I honestly believe everything around you, your personal life, all that family stuff, your health, it'll all start to fail as well.
So true, mate. So true. Because everything's out of alignment, right? You can't just wait.
We've got a short life. Yeah, we got one life. It's short. We need to have fun. If you don't have that, it'll end up creeping away. For me, you might not know or realise it until it's too late, unfortunately. But so you just got to be really self-aware of that. And I'm lucky at the moment, mate. I enjoy my predominant career. I enjoy my side business. I love my family. I have so much fun watching my child grow and the family grow over the years and stuff. So having those experiences, so I'm happy, mate. Like, I've come from humble beginnings, mate, and I've never been the one that wants to drive a Lamborghini and have more money than I can spend. I'd rather have personal experiences with people I love. Like, that's more important to me.
Totally, man.
If I can do that comfortably, I'm good, mate. Like, I'm good. So
big time.
You'd always
big
like
time.
a little bit more, maybe, but look, that's not a huge priority for me. I'm not that. It's not that. It's not what drives me. What drives me is those personal relationships.
100%, which is quite evident in, it's very obvious. Like, I can vouch for when you say that. I know it's true because of the conversations we've had and the values we discuss. It's like there's people that say those things but don't live it, and it's really encouraging to hear from anyone on their journey that they're like just living how they want to live. And on that note of like doing what you do or don't want to do, I was literally talking about this last week with someone that I coach, and we're talking about time spend. And you mentioned this before with coaching, like, but have you tried succeeding in that with this group of people or this person around you, which is often what people will bring me into their world to do, is help get that alignment and get them fit, healthy, strong. But we're talking about time spend and how, and I know these metrics are different, but if you've got 168 hours in a week and I've got 52 weeks in a year, right? So there's only 50 weekends, say 50 weekends for a round number. I don't want to spend one of those weekends. Obviously, sometimes I have to do business stuff and family stuff and this and that. But when you're choosing who you spend time with and what you do, whether it be work or recreational commitments, I've only got 50 of those weekends in a year. So why would I want to spend them doing stuff that's completely out of line with what I actually enjoy spending my time doing?
Yeah.
So
I agree, mate. Yeah. And look, it's really important to have the good people around you for that direction and growth as well. Like, you need to have common interests, common direction. Like, it's not just about who you are now and who you want to be now. Who do I want to be? Where do I want to go? Are these people going to go there with me, or they're going to hold me back? And look, that's not about, making it personal or, being horrible, nasty to anybody. It's just, it doesn't align. Maybe it aligned at one stage of life, but if you're not progressing and changing over life, I think it's a life wasted, to be honest. So, and that involves having different surroundings, and that includes people. So, and some people will come through the whole journey with you. They will, and they're those genuine people that you're lucky to find in your life. But others will come and go, and they are there for a reason at the time, mate. And you just got to be careful not to get dragged down. I talk to some of the young schoolboys I deal with of just be really careful who you are hanging around with, who you are influenced by. Because that can have a really huge effect on who you become as a person, because it becomes standardized cultural values of what's acceptable, and you lose who you are sometimes through that.
Yeah, big time, man. Big time. Mate, you might have touched on this before, but for someone who's still listening to us chit-chat after 45 minutes that doesn't have a routine with fitness, with their health, with their anything to do with literally just looking after themselves, what would be your advice to someone who's just like doesn't have any of it together? What would be a next step?
Yeah, look, I think I did touch that before, where it's just start really small. If you're that far removed from it, whether it's your diet, it's your exercise, it's your work, start really small. Like, you want the big picture, right? Like, it's always, but just focus on those really small steps. Don't look at, for instance, climbing a mountain and the top. We're not going to go to the top unless you take all those little steps in between and climb something and go back down a little bit to get back up a little bit. So just that routine and the small steps, I think, when you're really stuck, will help that growth. Like, slowly let the brake off until you're in a position where you're getting those endorphins, you're getting that feedback, and then it should hopefully naturally come to you.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Good slipping the analogy back in to close us out. That's good.
Yeah.
Mate, I'll wrap us up. Remember to stay on till this thing finishes uploading. But if you're still tuning in, thanks heaps for tuning in. That was an awesome conversation, plenty of takeaways. If you didn't learn something, press replay because there's lots of gold nuggets in there. Thanks, Matt, for jumping on as a guest. Really appreciate your time, man.
No worries, mate. Good to chat.